If you are new to regulatory affairs or exploring whether this field might be right for you, this short video is part of a beginner foundation series. In this module, we will focus on what regulatory affairs is. By the end, you should have a clear, practical understanding of what this function means in healthcare and why it exists. You don't need any prior regulatory background to follow along. Let us start with the most basic question. What is regulatory affairs? Regulatory affairs, often called RA, is a professional function found in industries where products can directly affect human health. The most common examples are medicines, vaccines, and medical devices. At its core, regulatory affairs sits at the intersection of science, regulation, and public health. The role of RA is to support public health regulatory decisions by ensuring that scientific and technical information is complete, accurate, and clearly explained. A simple way to think about it is this. Regulatory affairs helps translate scientific work into a form that regulators can evaluate and trust. To understand why this role matters, we need to look at why regulatory affairs exist in the first place. Regulatory affairs exist because medicines are not ordinary products. Before a medicine can be used by patients, society needs confidence that it works as intended, has an acceptable level of risk, and is manufactured with consistent quality. Regulatory authorities are responsible for making these decisions on behalf of the public. However, regulators do not generate the data themselves. They rely on evidence provided by companies. This is where regulatory affairs plays a critical role. RA helps organizations generate, organize, and submit the right evidence so regulators can make informed, science-based decisions. Importantly, this responsibility does not end once a product is approved. Medicines are monitored and updated over many years. Throughout this process, the goal remains the same: protecting patients while enabling access to effective treatment. Now that we understand the purpose, let us look at what regulatory affairs actually does in practice. In practice, regulatory affairs professionals perform several key activities. They prepare and manage regulatory submissions, such as applications for product approval or requests to change an approved product. They interpret regulations and guidelines, helping teams understand what evidence is required and how it should be presented. They also coordinate across different functions within an organization, such as research, manufacturing, quality, and safety. This coordination matters because regulatory decisions depend not only on data, but on how well that data is aligned, explained, and justified. All this work happens in relation to regulatory authorities, so let us briefly look at that context. Every country has its own authority responsible for overseeing medicines. For example, in Indonesia, this role is carried out by BPOM. In other countries, different authorities perform similar functions. While their names, procedures, and timelines may vary, their purpose is the same: to review evidence, ask questions, and make public health regulatory decisions. Regulatory affairs always work within this context, applying shared global principles within local regulatory systems. At this point, it is helpful to clear up a few common misunderstandings about regulatory affairs. When people are new to regulatory affairs, a few misunderstandings are very common. First, RA is often seen as just paperwork. In reality, RA work involves judgment, interpretation, and structured thinking. Second, RA professionals are sometimes mistaken for regulators. They are not. Regulatory decisions are always made by authorities, not by companies. And third, RA is sometimes viewed as a purely administrative role. In practice, it requires scientific understanding, clear communication, and accountability. Recognizing these points early helps prevent frustration and unrealistic expectations. Before we close, let us bring these ideas together into one clear takeaway. The key message to take away is this: regulatory affairs supports public health regulatory decisions across the entire product lifecycle. This matters because it shapes how evidence is evaluated and how medicines are made available responsibly to patients. In the next module, we will build on this foundation by looking at why medicines are regulated in the first place and how regulation protects patients while managing risks.